And we're on.
Alright, this is a test for the Shoestring Spectacle Ethan's interview. Footage and audio. Testing. 1, 2, 3. Ethan Toth. I am an actor. Yes. Thank you. End scene. You may cut the camera's dead ass. Hello, my name is Ethan Toth, and I was an actor in The Last Stubmaster. Well, I was an actor, script supervisor. I did stunts with my acting. I did casting. I did casting too. I did a lot of things on The Last Stubmaster, but lots of people did things that they never expected to do.
Come on!
I'm here today to talk about the struggles and the triumphs that was The Last Stubmaster. It was truly a shoestring spectacle. But But it didn't matter. We loved doing what we did. It was just four guys speaking their mind about movies. We spent hours being dumb kids, flinging around our politically incorrect opinions. It was special. The Last Stubmaster is the fifth and final installment in the Stubmaster retrospective series. It's sort of a culmination of the whole channel, which, if you don't know what Stubmasters is, it's a YouTube channel, and you can still go ahead and check that out now on YouTube just to see what was going on there. But in a nutshell, it was movie reviews and news and discussions and things like that. But we ended the whole channel with a big narrative.
I wanted to make sure that we closed that channel off with a bang, and what we had done in previous years is we made kind of like an in-canon mini movie series about fictionalized, kind of like overblown versions of ourselves. And The Last Stubmaster was intended to, close all of that out, close out the channel, and then we could finally move on with our creative careers and just kind of look back upon Stubmasters with a very fond memory, and just known that, that was the foundation of what we ended up becoming.
Now, coming off of the fourth retrospective, we knew we wanted to blow the final one out of the park. So, Jonathan, our writer and director extraordinaire, began writing The Last Stubmaster very quickly after we finished the fourth installment, because I know Jonathan and he was very quick to jump on it and get some really good material out when he could.
Right off the bat, I started making this right after we wrapped up Retrospective 4. I remember getting really excited about the different possibilities and where we could be taking characters. I was making fake posters, literally, or concept posters for the film before I even started writing it. So when I started writing it, I didn't know where to take it, because one of the complaints we had about Retrospective 4 was that it went really dark and it was completely out of tone with Retrospective 3. So I wanted to try to strike a balance between the two by going for more of an action-adventure vibe. And I feel like that's pretty much what we ended up hitting, and that was the springboard for everything else we would develop for that project.
So when did you first hear that the fifth one was happening?
Well, I'm pretty sure we started talking about that before the one before it was done. Like, I'm pretty sure that, because I was a big main character in the one before this, but then I was dead for this one. But it still popped up in a couple flashbacks. I'm like the Ned Stark of this saga, like I die early on, but you feel my presence throughout. But yeah, it was really like Jonathan was really right on it after we finished the first one. Like, that's just kind of the guy he is. Really since right then they were talking about it in some form, but it changed a lot.
In a very early draft, we were supposed to fight previous versions of ourselves. It sounds like a nightmare, and technically it would have been a nightmare for us to do. So we were supposed to fight, old versions of ourselves. So like think of the Stub Masters in like Retrospective 3, something like that. So we would have had to fight ourselves, and I think there would have been a scene that involved like me mixing up which Jonathan was which, like which was the still assassin version of Jonathan and which one had like turned to the good side. And honestly, I'm a sucker for that trope in movies, so I love seeing that, which one is which one do I shoot? I think that's a really cool scene, and I was all for that. I remember at some point we wanted to do time travel, I think, before Endgame. This was us going back in time. We wanted to do super secret espionage thriller thing that had us going against the military or something like that. I know very specifically there was a scene about someone diving to board a submarine or things like that. I don't know, it was crazy.
I think it was around November of 2018. I came back to Miami for Thanksgiving because I actually go to college up in Maryland. And I was on a boat with John Calai and his dad, and we were just kind of like riding around, and for some reason we started talking about the film, and we just talked about ideas and how we thought it was going. And I remember John and I had like this really cool creative springboard thing happening where we were talking about, wouldn't it be really cool instead of making this big spectacle thing, that we actually focused on the characters for once and made like a really intimidating villain. And we're like, oh wow, we're trying to apply like good film fundamentals to something that we've essentially just been making like a rip-off Michael Bay, ha ha ha, just made for popcorn fun kind of films we've done before. And now we are trying to apply actual film principles and good filmmaking to something like that. So I remember as soon as we got off John's family's boat, I'm like, okay, wow, I'm gonna have to bring this to the back to the drawing board, and let's make this more grounded. Let's make it a little more realistic. Let's make it, more character driven, and see what happens from there.
Finally, Jonathan told me that the script was done, and we would have, a full feature-length film script ready to go. And I remember I was with John Calai, another actor, and he did a lot of the music for this project. I remember reading through the script, since Jonathan sent us both copies, and we convened later to talk about it. And I've always been a little hesitant sometimes with Jonathan's writings, because sometimes there are very, I guess director's trademarks of, of Jonathan's, whether that be like the most macho of action scenes or some dialogue that just comes off really dumb. No offense, Jonathan. But, Jonathan gave us the scripts, and John and I convened to talk about it, and we actually didn't find, nothing wrong with it. Maybe some dialogue that needed a touch up or something, but nothing, so serious that it was like earth-breaking, movie-destroying terribleness. So we reported back to him. We gave Jonathan, the thumbs up, the all clear, that that was the movie that we wanted to make. Name and what you did. Does Rio want to get in on this too?
Yeah. Okay.
So yeah, name and what you did for the project.
Hey, my name's Sebastian. Hey, my name's Sebastian Delgado, and I am the director of photography for The Last Stub Master.
How did you get involved with production? How did Jonathan approach you? Did you have any previous knowledge of the project?
Well, it wasn't actually Jonathan that reached out to me. Ethan reached out to me, who's a friend of mine that I went to school with, who's friends with Jonathan. I remember a few months before that, I saw them work on this other project, and it would just seem like really fun thing to be part of. I wanted to kind of make more friends that were also interested in making movies and making videos. I just want to be part of that. So I was talking to Ethan. I'm like, yo, that seems really fun. If you guys need help with any of the project, let me know. And then a few months after that, he reached me out and said, hey, I'm working with Jonathan on the Retrospective 5 last semester, and he asked if I want to be part as the director of photography, and I was like, yeah, sounds like fun. And I joined onto the project and worked with Jonathan on pre-production and getting things ready and throughout the project.
Was it more of a passion thing for you, or more of a job?
Oh, it was
Did you have a mindset of either one going in?
it was more of a passion project for me. It was an opportunity to connect with other like-minded people that were trying to make things happen in media and make videos. I just wanted to work with other people and meet other people that I felt would be valuable friends to have. You always want to surround yourself with people that are like-minded and have similar interests or similar ambitions, and this was just another opportunity that I can connect with people like that. And so yeah, this was 100% a passion project. It was an opportunity to meet people that I wanted to surround myself with.
What was the pre-production like? So were there any standout moments in like location scouting or storyboarding, anything like that? Throughout the whole process of, scouting and pre-production, we were also doing some casting, obviously, for a movie. So myself and Sebastian were in charge of casting, and we used a location for our actors to show up because Jonathan posted on Craigslist the best place to find actors and things, apparently. So I remember Jonathan sent out this ad, and Jonathan told me he got responses so fast, like incredibly quickly.
Mid-shot of Jonathan staring in surprise.
I was never going to let anyone control me like that again.
Close-up of Z.
And you know what? No one fucking has sense. So no, I had no problem dealing with my father.
Yeah.
You
Diane.
know what I mean. Doing an interview that actually
Fair enough.
matters.
I'm ready whenever he is. Diane.
Okay, I'll bring him out.
Wide shot of Diane walking down a hallway. Mid shot of Carvello looking to the mirror and reciting several lines. Carvello.
I felt like I was one of the judges in American Idol in the first auditions, where they had to do like a cappella. And at one point, someone came in, and your performance was not the greatest, and I was trying to compose myself to not laugh in their faces. I had to step up and leave to not, like, I felt such a dick, but it was such a funny moment. I had to leave for 2 minutes.
We had other folks like Doug, who were a riot to have. I remember Doug reading for different characters, and he was a lot of fun. I remember reading with JJ Crown, who ended up playing Jonathan's uncle, if I recall correctly, and he was great too, so we brought him on board. I remember him showing me 2 photos of himself, one with hair and one completely bald, and asking me, I can do whatever you need. If you want bald, if you want hair, if you want some hair, no hair, I can do whatever you need. So the dedication that JJ and Doug both put in for not enormous roles was very commendable, and I'm very happy that we got them on board. We're running through casting. We get Sierra Houlihan on board as Diane, who plays my fiance, who ended up also doing makeup as well as some other things in the film. And I think she did something with music as well. So we also had her do vocals for a song, I believe. And John, who of course worked on score and things like that, he also really helped elevate the movie overall. And there's obviously Emmanuel, who played our antagonist in the film, Z, who, he was the most stand out, no offense, during casting.
I remember looking at Ethan and just thinking to myself, like, wow, like this guy embodies so much passion and drive to the craft of acting, and we were really excited we were like, yeah, like he's like, we gotta cast him for something. We still weren't quite sure if we were gonna do this character or maybe that character, but we knew we wanted him on the project.
He was the one where I knew Jonathan was going to pick him for sure for our antagonist role, because I remember sending the film to Jonathan and him replying back to me like, oh yeah, we got Z. That's him right there. And I'm like, well, you know, I kind of called it.
And I'll never forget how damn good Emmanuel Okeke was in his interview. I remember looking at it and saying, that's who I want right off the bat. You know, we can close auditions for other roles. He's the guy I want for the role.
So when I saw him, I was like, okay, cool. These are two young filmmakers. They look like filmmakers, especially Sebastian. Like, he looks like a filmmaker. So, okay, this is going to be a different look. Okay, cool. No problem. So I went to the audition. I was like, hey, I'm Emmanuel. Nice to meet you. Nice to meet you. I've been told that I have very, like, what's the word? Very impactful aura about me. It's like when I'm in the audition, it's like, you know, I'm here. You, like, humbly, of course. You know I'm here. I'm here to give you the best performance I have. And with Z, he was like very sinister. So it's like, for me, I have a very deep voice. So it comes natural, just like, yeah,
Right.
you know, so it just comes very natural. So they was very impressed by the audition. They asked me, oh, when's your availability? I was like, you know, Monday to Friday after this time, and then open on the weekends. It was very cool. The audition was very cool. It was somewhat quick. You know, they asked me, I knew for sure I somewhat got the role when I think Sebastian asked me, or Ethan asked me to do it again. They was like, yo, can you do that again real quick?
Alrighty. Cool,
Let's do a second read around, and this time in sort of the beginning lines, let's take it more as an interrogative sort of thing. So you're interrogating him.
Okay. I was like, all right, no problem. Like, no problem. That's how I knew. It was like, okay, cool. Is it they really mess with it, or it's like, you know, I didn't get it? But I kind of knew that I was gonna get the role, and then I got the role.
The last person that I remember casting was LJ Ugarte. We initially had him he was reading for a thug role, I believe, and I think that's what he got. He ended up with like a thug role, and you know, we had so much fun during his casting, and he just drops out of nowhere. He just tells us, yeah, you know, my production company is Fire Creek Entertainment, yada yada yada. But I remember what I heard, and what Jonathan ended up hearing as well was, you know, this is an opportunity to you know, partner up with someone and try to go past, you know, the scope of what we've done before.
I said, let me double check and see what they're about. You know, just took a leap of faith. And then you guys were very detailed when y'all put it out. You know, you put a little synopsis, you put, you know, the little breakdown, which looked very professional. I was like, okay. I submitted my submission, and then you guys had this audition, and I drove to I was excited because, you know, right. I'm still an actor, you know, still seeking work and doing that. And I drove to the audition, and I knew it was a real place. And I was kind of sketchy. I'm like, is this a porn place? But I was like, my career ain't sink that low.
Not yet.
So I took a chance. I remember I couldn't find the place, and I remember it was back door, and I was like, where am I? Still taking the chance. Then I met your two guys, you know, and I was like, so you were out of town,
right?
Course.
I was out of town, which leads me to my next question. Or, you know, we have to go right into it. So what did you think when you first met Ethan and Sebastian? Because Sebastian is a director of photographer that we use quite a bit now because we had a good experience with him. And you know, Ethan is my secondhand guy. You know, he's my assistant on the company, everything. So when you first met them, what were your thoughts?
I said, these two little boys are trying to make a movie. That's what I said, these two little boys want to make a movie? I'm like, they have no fucking idea. Okay, but then I went back and said I was that guy. Because I saw Sebastian, and I'm like, I was drawn to Sebastian. I was like, I see myself a little bit in Sebastian. He's ambitious. and he likes what he does with the camera. And he's a goofy kid and he's excited. And I was like, okay, I could draw. I was drawn to that. And Ethan too. And then when I auditioned and did my thing, I was like, okay, I'm not gonna see these guys again, but you know what? There's something here. There's something truly here that I sense. I go by vibes. So I remember giving them a brochure because I always come prepared. I remember I brought a brochure, a business card. I had a CD, one of my albums. I remember I had one of these.
Oh yeah.
And I gave him one of this. I said, look, I'm a filmmaker. I have a production company called Fire Creek Entertainment. They brushed it off. I remember he took the brochure and put it in his little folder and he was like, okay.
Fire Creek Entertainment really helped us elevate our equipment game, our production value game, and our validity game. These were things that kind of helped us really feel like we were making a Hollywood blockbuster. And while we weren't, it certainly gave us the sense that we're A-list, we're red carpet ready. And that's something I really appreciate as well. So, alongside the equipment that we got from LJ and Fire Creek Productions, we also managed to secure a cool $5,000 via Kickstarter through the community in Miami, and that was just incredible. I remember watching along in real time, watching the money get donated in and coming out, and I was in awe that people were ready to, help us succeed. And, I'm just very grateful to the community here that they were ready, that they've seen stuff from us for so long that they're like, all right, fine, here is something to really get you guys going, and this will set you off. And I don't think it would have been possible without that Kickstarter. I don't think it would have been nearly as successful. A shoestring budget was what we had with 5,000. So imagine what we had, what we would have had with 0. I don't even want to think about the ghetto, set stuff we would have had to pull if we didn't get that $5,000.
The one thing that stood out to me in pre-production was the ambitious timeline that Jonathan set. This was intended to be a full feature-length film, about an hour and a half, and we had a schedule of about 2 weeks. And as a producer and director myself, I had just finished working on a music video called Dreams. It was an entire week-long production, working day and night until 5 a.m. on work nights. And that was just barely enough to get us by with the level of production and budget that we had. And we made something incredible. I was really proud of the project. And now something that was intended to be over an hour and a half, to be filmed in 2 weeks, which is double the amount of time, do the math there. I took a week to do 3 minutes, so 2 weeks to do, let's say, 6 minutes. Now try doing that same thing and getting an hour and a half. It was something that I was a bit taken aback by. And it was something that I decided, you know what? I'm gonna take this as a challenge to myself as to how can I best support the director to make that vision happen, and how can I best support the producer and the director to make that vision happen, to make that goal happen. Because maybe there's something that I don't know, and I wanna take this as a learning opportunity.
And I knew there was going to be a tight shoot. I remember I was only going to be allowed to be in Miami for about 3 weeks. And selfish as I was at the time, I really wanted to have at least 1 week of vacation when I was down there. So I wanted to kind of crunch the shooting schedule into 2 weeks. I didn't know how difficult that was going to be. This is my first feature film. But I figured, hey, I'm an organized person. If anyone can get it done, it's going to be me. And we kind of succeeded with that, but not entirely. And I think that just the moral of the story is, time is everything. So if you can take more time, if I could go back and tell my future self to take it, I absolutely would have.
The one thing I was concerned about was the script. It wasn't the strongest script out there. The premise was there, and the idea was there. It's that...
Are you gonna give up? Or are you gonna get this bastard and save the day?
And at times I kind of wanted to step in and kind of be like, we should rewrite this line of dialogue or rewrite this scene and maybe this should happen. But that's not my job. It's not why I was there. And so I just kind of let the director do their thing, because that's what the director does best. That's what you gotta let them do.
Now we are getting into the actual filming of the piece, and I remember the first day of filming was the cemetery scene, where I go and look at John's grave and go and pay my respects. And I remember thinking how freaking hot that day was, and how much was I in a suit? I believe I was in like a blue like button-up shirt and slacks and things like that. I was caked up in makeup. Yeah, I just gotten a haircut. I had given my barber a picture of Jimmy Fallon and said, do your best to, make me look like this man right here. And by God, he didn't. he didn't, but he gave me an okay looking haircut.
The wardrobe department had us all wearing, long sleeve clothes, especially for Ethan, because he was supposed to look like a talk show a talk show host coming off of a shift. And I was in it briefly, and I was supposed to be a PI, so I think I was in a blazer and like black jeans. Just not optimal clothing for, tropical paradise weather. So I remember when we showed up, we were a little concerned at first because we're shooting at like a public cemetery. And I originally wanted to get permits to shoot in all public places, but the problem is it's a lot of money and it's time consuming. And depending on what you're doing, sometimes you need like a police escort or, public services there to rope off the area. And we didn't feel like this was necessary for such a small shoot.
So you see a lot of cool concepts in the cinematography, but there was one shot that it was a cool concept, but it was really poor in execution just because I should have at least taken another 10 minutes to figure out exactly what makes the concept. So it's the shot where you walk away from the cemetery and then Jonathan comes into frame. But because I decided to film wide, I wanted it to be wide angle so I could see you as a small figure walking off the frame and Jonathan's in the foreground. But what I didn't do is that I just shot the camera at a wide angle lens, so the geometry of it looks like Jonathan would have been right in your eyesight. Like, why the hell didn't you see him? Versus what we should have done was just gotten the long lens at a very long distance so we can continue, so that we could actually have you small in frame and still have a wide frame, but a tight lens. That way there's actual distance, there's actual depth. But I didn't spend another 10 minutes to figure that out. And so, we were in a tight schedule and people were just kind of waiting around, and it was really hot and it was our last shot. So
back to what I was saying. Yeah, our first scene was in the cemetery. I wasn't totally sure if we had the right to be there. Scratch that. I definitely don't think we had the right to be there. Security talked to us at some point. They told us don't do anything crazy, don't do anything weird. And I believe we told them that we were doing a history project. Regardless, we got it done that day, and that was the first day of filming, was out in the really hot Miami heat in the cemetery. I don't want to think if we disturbed any spirits or anything. I hope not. Maybe the film was cursed because of it, but that was our first day of filming.
So that first day was a clear indicator that we needed to be more efficient and plan out our days in more detail.
Do you think you, based on the first day, managed to step it up in any way into the second day with the bar scene? Or was there anything else fun or interesting about the bar scene while we were filming?
So going into the bar scene for our second day, I definitely decided to step it up. I wanted to make sure that everything looked good from our lighting, from the way that we positioned our camera. I remember I wouldn't say argued, but I definitely debated strongly with Jonathan about how he wanted to place the camera, and he was like, no, I want this because this is cool. And I'm like, no, but that doesn't make sense. This doesn't make sense. We have to make it work. And even in the editing, I remember I made an edit of the bar scene after the production because it just fit the flow. It just flowed. It worked. But there was a line of dialogue that Jonathan really liked, and it was really funny. We all really liked it. I loved that line.
And when I tried to splice it in the actual edit, Yet again, because it's not like we got multiple takes, that he was doing improv, and this was the shot I decided I wanted to go ahead and roll with. It was difficult to find points where it would kind of match the other shots that were going on in the scene. So it came off as a little disjointed. I didn't think it looked too bad, but in hindsight, it probably should have just left it on the cutting room floor.
So I wake up after my excursion with the Swedish fish. Someone injected it with something. I do not know with what. I wake up 4 to 5, 6 days later. I have $7. I have no family. I have 1 bottle of this. That was yesterday.
It was hilarious. It was so funny. I loved it. He did such a great job at such a great delivery of it. But seeing it in the cut, it just slowed it down. And the way that it was shot and the way that it was cut felt really choppy. He cuts to this person out of nowhere, and then he's talking in the background, but the lips don't match at all because they don't. And then it's like a weird cut, and then it cuts back, and then it cuts to something else, and then it cuts to something for no reason. It was a really weird cut, and there was no way of going around it. So I thought it would be a good idea to just get rid of it with another line that also worked and also infused humor in other ways other than the dialogue. There was humor in the cut, there was humor in the pace. But, ultimately, Jonathan didn't want that, and I think it should have gone the way that I wanted the cut to go. I definitely had to step it up for those days, and starting with that bar scene day too. We kind of set things back on track for good cinematography, good lighting.
One of the other first nights that we had for filming was filming at Jonathan's house, and it was a part in his backyard where we filmed in his pool. And I remember thinking how funny it was that he had his little bottle of whatever prop it was and having that underwater and making fun of the physics there. But that night was really, I think, a standout point in terms of lighting and how well we had that set on lock.
Understanding that this was our first project and you had worked on a ton of sets before. Yeah. So what was your experience with, the working environment that we established on set?
I was actually very impressed because when I reported to work for the first time, and it was the pool scene. You guys have already had everything. I have never seen it. My equipment looked so amazing on that set by the pool, and everything was lit. And I was just like, wow, this is kind of neat. It was just welcoming. The girls were amazing. It was just cool. I'm like, wow, we're actually going to make a movie for real. And then I was very impressed with you because you said you didn't really do much acting and whatnot, and you were for natural. It was just natural. It was like, you were drunk,
that was fun.
You threw yourself in the pool, and it was just, acting was so awesome, and I'm there trying to keep up with you. With the gun, and it was such a fun experience.
As for cast that night, we had LJ there, we had Jonathan, we had John, we had our friends Jordan and Aaron who were there as well. Aaron, who actually started to take on some more crew roles as he, got more involved with the production, and we've stayed in touch with him ever since. Same for Jordan. Jordan has one of the better lines in this movie, "Fuck them kids," which, fuck them kids. I mean, come on, it's a banger line.
Once everybody had left, we decided to shoot our underwater scenes with Jonathan's GoPro. And I've worked with GoPros in the past. I've always hated GoPros. They always look really bad. No matter what you do in post-production, they always look like a GoPro. And so I can never get over that. But I remember we filmed the shot, especially the shot where he splashes into the water. Shot that at 120 frames a second. And looking at the footage, I was blown away. I was like, oh my God, this is it was one of my favorite shots of the entire movie, was that shot. And it was shot on a GoPro. But I loved it. Just the composition, the pacing, the speed ramping of it, the lighting. It was really, really, really cool. I loved that shot.
There's that scene where Jonathan is hallucinating John's body in the pool. And I don't know why I thought this, but I thought it'd be so funny if for some reason we noticed that John had webbed feet. I don't know why. I just kept thinking that'd be so funny.
Yeah, it was fun. I remember when I appeared in the pool, I was trying to figure out how to like stay at the right level, like to not just like float, because I'm a tiny man. So I was like, really, I feel like I looked kind of weird, like positioning myself in the pool, like kind of shaking myself around, swimming to make sure I was in the right spot. Yeah, didn't have any lines, just had to nod my head ominously to Jonathan. But yeah, that was a great time. That was a really like, it was like, damn, we're here and we're doing this, you know. And I think we accomplished a lot with that shoot that I'm still really happy with, for sure.
During that scene, we were trying to figure out how to do a stunt that involved taking Jonathan, grabbing him, and throwing him into a table, and the table was supposed to shatter. Now, we had gone to IKEA, bought the table, and we made like such an ass of ourselves walking through IKEA, asking the people who worked there, you know, which is the most unsturdy table, which one can we absolutely plow through.
So we're looking for like the flimsiest thing that we can just like easily break. Is that we're looking for like a prop for a film, and so we're looking for something that we can just easily like break in half, something like that.
By leaning back on it, or
by like falling on it or being pushed onto the table.
Probably any particular color. It doesn't matter.
Any particular color doesn't really matter.
Probably this Stefan chair, $25. If you build it loosely, in other words, don't tighten up the screws, it's pretty flimsy.
Okay.
You don't make it tight.
And we did find one. We did sort of like cut into like the structure of the table, you know, the legs, and weaken it significantly.
Safety at Stuntmasters Reviews is our #1 priority. Every stuntman is super valuable. Every asset is the most important thing.
But what was supposed to happen was I was supposed to get into an altercation with a gang of Z's thugs, played by LJ, Jordan, and Aaron, and I was supposed to get thrown through a table, and then LJ was supposed to kick me unconscious. But the shot came out so janky of me flying through the air, which admittedly just looked like a frat boy jumping on like a pool table in a party.
Let's hope I make it around okay.
And this is Jackass.
And this is Jackass.
Okay, camera's rolling. Whenever you're ready.
Alright, just go for it.
Whenever you're ready.
Fuck it.
But, you know, we scrapped it, we cut it, and we just had Aaron grab Jonathan by the neck and lead him out of the scene, which, I mean, you know, safety was... I don't know if safety was the #1 priority. I don't think it was.
You know, only thing we care about is our own safety.
Please stop
so we'll be okay. We'll be fine. This is fine. Everything is fine.
Oh no, that was the worst.
That night was one of the first nights of filming, and that sort of gave me the indication of, okay, this is how everything is going to go down. This is how, you know, how everything is going to work. Of course, that night went much later than expected. That's not even the worst of it, but still, it gave me a look ahead of what was to come, basically.
So, our first apartment scene at night was the fight scene between LJ and Jonathan, and we didn't have anything choreographed or prefaced. But one of Jonathan's buddies was choreographing it for us, so we were choreographing on site, and I had to be involved by choreographing the camera, because he was choreographing the moves, and I had to choreograph how we were going to move the camera in the scene, how it was going to play out, and where the camera would be, what's going to happen. We were just kind of coming up with things as as we were shooting.
So the problem with this scene was that it revolved around a gun prop. And the problem was, when we actually rolled up on set, we were missing the one big piece, the gun. So we had to completely, basically redo our fight scene on the fly. We spent probably about an hour and a half choreographing how the fight was actually going to look, and then we had to execute it And this was a ton of fun to shoot, mainly because I love action choreography, and it's always fun just to kind of do some fight moves behind the camera, get a little sweaty, get a little bit of a workout in, quite honestly. But it was just a ton of fun to shoot.
There was a lot of really funny moments looking back at the footage of just like trying to make the scene play out and make the scene work. No, but I really liked it. You know, when we came up with the idea where he's pinning into the wall, but then he reaches for the knife and then he spills it all, and then
we can go in and talk about our fight scene. That was brutal.
Oh, you're right. I'll never forget that. So I remember, how many times did you get thrown on the floor?
Man, too many times. I still feel it.
Oh,
I still feel your leg on my face.
I'm so sorry.
Okay, I'm done. Mind you, I am 5'9". At the time, I gained some weight, but at the time, I'm like 140 pounds, and you're like 6'4", 200 pounds from the military.
That was not going to be a good match.
That day we did a lot better at figuring out before we started rolling. It did take more time to figure out, but it all worked out at the end.
Second day of filming, I remember being, oh gosh, I think it was in an apartment complex in Brickell in like downtown Miami, where it is my apartment with Diane, and we have this very heated conversation, this argument about Jonathan, and you know, filming in Brickell, filming downtown is always tough because parking sucks. You have to secure the place way ahead of time, as with any, you know, pre-production.
That day was a little bit more grounded. We had to be a little bit more strategic because it was a character-driven scene. It was a dramatic scene. So we had to make sure that we got the character beats right. Jonathan was focused on working with the actors. I was focusing on making sure that we could capture the dialogue and the characters and their performances in the right way, you know, to set up the lights really nice and soft and make it feel homey. And
we didn't have too much trouble filming. I remember the biggest issue was on our microphone, on our audio department. We kept getting interference from either like a local radio station or someone just listening to music or something like that.
We kept getting radio interference from different radio stations and hearing like Spanish trap music, you know, that kind of reggaeton kind of music, and I already hate that kind of music. So hearing it in my recorder, ruining my audio, just pissed me off more than it should have.
And I don't remember who was, you know, holding the boom or something. It was probably Jonathan, but he kept interrupting us, interrupting our scenes, and cutting early because he kept picking up that music, and it was driving him absolutely batty, insane. And Jonathan is a director where he's got a short fuse at times. Sometimes he has a little temper.
Gabe's there to pick it up.
With things that are out of his control. If he can, you know, wrangle it in, if it's in his range of doing, you know, whatever, he'll keep it under control. But if something is out of his control and it gets in the way of filming, then watch out. Because unrelated, while we were filming The Perch, I thought he was going to kill Sebastian at a certain point.
And right at the moment when we were supposed to start recording the dialogue, all of a sudden we got some radio interference, and it was this really loud Spanish music. And no matter what we did, we tried changing, you know, the microphone frequency, we tried waiting for a bit, we tried shooting, I think at one point maybe inside, and we just kept picking it up, and it was really damn frustrating. So we ended up going way over schedule. I remember we were supposed to finish like wrapping up at midnight, and we didn't wrap up until 4 a.m. And a big part of that was just having to adapt to that reggaeton, you know, music, and having to stop every 5 seconds in order to, you know, film any sort of dialogue.
We had some struggles that night during that scene, but you know, ultimately it went over well. I'm pretty sure we ran really late on that shoot, but believe it or not, it is not the latest that we would be filming for The Last Stubmaster. So that will come in later on in the story as well.
I don't know how we got access to the local community center. It's a local community center where I grew up and did karate classes. White belt, yellow stripes.
I did that too.
I never got to the yellow belt. Never. And I did it for like years. No, and for some reason we got access to it, which is really cool. And we had the big auditorium we emptied out, and we had Bob the dummy.
The training scene that I got to share with Mr. John Pegg. The guy is an absolute beast in real life. He's just uber fit, and it was very intimidating to have him train me in that scene.
Originally it was supposed to be a boxing gym, actually, and it was supposed to kind of just glaze over as more of a montage. But when I had someone read over the script, they're like, hey, when Ethan talks about, being a sheep and a wolf, and you have the ending where he's fighting Z, it doesn't really make sense because there's not a lot of buildup of to why he would do that. So I'm like, okay, so I decided to go ahead and write this scene and make it a little bit more intimate for Ethan. Instead of doing a montage where he's just kind of like boxing, he's learning to survive.
There's this one shot. Jonathan had this vision of like, oh, this could be a really cool shot, and we're like, he's punching and he's dodging, and so we had the camera moving around, and the shot turned out pretty cool. I liked it a lot. I remember seeing the final cut, and I remember I saw the final shot when we were on site, and I was like, oh, that's a really cool shot, it's gonna be really cool. And then the final cut, I see it play out, and then it's like, audio just cuts off, no audio, no effects, it's just, and then it cuts.
Ethan!
And then it just cuts back to normal, and I'm like, you didn't do didn't use any of the other shots, maybe like added like an audio, like maybe like did a speed ramp, maybe just got one and kind of, and I saw it and I'm like, yeah, that shouldn't be in the film.
Were there any other shots or any other moments while we were filming that?
You straight up drop kicked the dummy.
So I was thoroughly beat to hell during that scene. I remember I did the drop kick multiple times, landed wrong multiple times, bruised myself multiple times. It wasn't that fun doing that part, mainly because it hurt, but as long as Jonathan was giving me the thumbs up that we got good footage, or Sebastian was giving me that thumbs up that we got good footage, whatever, I was happy at least we were getting it done. And that scene also has the sheep and wolf motif that we thoroughly sprinkled throughout the film.
The difference between a sheep and a wolf is mindset. You're not going to be somebody's victim. You're not going to be a target. You're not going to be a body count, okay?
There are sheep and there are wolves. It's time to decide which one you're going to be.
Eagle-eyed viewers can notice the similarities in scenes like that.
Why don't we talk about everything involving the studio?
Yeah, so I remember the studio was really exciting, because we were gonna have someone actually construct a set for us, and we were gonna have a whole space all to ourselves to film and do whatever camera. We'd have the crane, which really didn't do much. It just kind of had the camera like a little bit overhead view, so it was just for that one shot. But it did make shooting a lot easier with the jib. So it was really, really fun. The one thing that we made a mistake about was we set up a green screen without tracking markers, and we were moving, so it's like it just like, we should have honestly not put a green screen. It should have just been like print out images of like the city and shit like that, like they have on late night shows. Like, why didn't we fucking do that? Like, oh my god, like it wasn't a smart thing.
Originally I wanted to go ahead and use green screen, so I had options in terms of what kind of city backdrop I wanted to put. It didn't occur to me though to actually think to put tracking markers, or to ask them to put tracking markers on, which ended up kicking me in the ass later when I was editing, because then I had to artificially use Adobe Premiere to track the screen so it didn't look like it was stationary when people were walking around it. via the perspective of where the camera was placed, so it didn't look too weird. And honestly, I think it came out pretty well. I don't think that it was the end of the world, but given the the level of visual effects work that I had done previously, which was none, this was actually pretty good.
But on top of that, I was actually planning on editing a big portion of the film, at least doing that VFX, and then I got a job up in New York, and I was producing other things in New York City, so I couldn't do it. So I think I could have salvaged the tracking of the VFX composition into the green screen, but last minute I couldn't do it, and I felt so bad, and things, one thing led to another. And then the shot that ended up in the movie where the VFX was just kind of there, and it was so janky. But other than that, I really enjoyed the scene, filming the scene, and then actually seeing the end result. So the scene that they go into in Abduct Carvella was a really fun scene to film for me. We had the smoke machine and the mask, and it was really cool. And then the shot where they step outside and run to the car, and I'm tracking them handheld. And then, throws him in the car. He puts the car into gear and drives my brother's car out. And it was a really, really fun sequence to film. And it turned out really amazing for our talent level at the time. It turned out really fun and really good. And I was so proud of that. I was so happy about what turned out from that scene and from that shoot.
I've had dreams of being a talk show host. Maybe I still do. And I kind of got to live out a fantasy there. That was a lot of fun. I got to share the screen with Doug for a majority of that scene, and Doug really knew how to chew up the scenery, especially later on in the scene where he gets tortured.
Just maybe the drive is up your ass with your threats.
So, Doug played such a perfect little scumbag that, I really hated him in that scene in context.
So with Ethan's character and Diane, they're kind of like having a moment up in that room, right? And there's a kiss scene, and I was filming it, but I didn't get the shot right, so it kind of buffered. But I felt so awkward to say, I fucked that up, kiss again. So I didn't say anything, stupidly. And so it just turned out this janky shot. Ethan's laughing.
I asked people, did the kiss look okay? Half the people said yes, half the people said no.
I remember looking at it afterwards, I'm like, oh God, do we have a different shot? And we only recorded it one time, so it's like, all right, I guess I'm gonna have to make this work in an awkward way. I felt really bad too. Not only was the kiss just a little weird, it was the fact that the actress was recently married just, a couple weeks prior. So it was like, oh, I feel bad. I don't want her to have to kiss a dude right when she's married. And I know that's part of acting, but at the same time, it's like, it's just awkward. It's weird, but in hindsight, we definitely should have reshot it.
If we could have done it a second take, I'm sure it would have been better, man.
No, but I didn't want to do it again because I didn't want it to be awkward.
Well, now everyone's telling me, dude, you looked like so fucking stupid kissing that girl. And I'm like, how could I mess up kissing a girl? Oh, God.
Trust me, you can do that.
No, you're right.
But it was my fuck up with the cinematography on that end. Oh man, yeah. So that's what happens. I also when we wrapped, we were taking like a group photo with everyone. I dropped my camera on the lens. Thank God I had the lens guard, so I just got a few scratches on the lens guard, not the actual lens. It was me who stepped on a cable.
Okay, all right.
That's why it was me.
The truth comes out.
And you see Jonathan looking at me like, he's like, what the fuck? He's like, what the fuck? And Aaron's leaning in trying to help me, and I'm just like,
It's like that. It's like that image of Jonah Hill as he's dropping the coffee.
Yeah. And here's
amazing. So
I also dropped this camera on a production I just recently did with Jonathan, and broke the battery that was on top and Thank God, camera was okay. I have that curse.
Oh God, filming in my house. We did film in my house for this one, for the scene where Jonathan and Z are talking, and Z kind of explains his relationship with his father. That was filmed in my house, in my living room. Also, the green kitchen you see later on, that's my kitchen, for sure. And during the scene with Jonathan and Z, you can definitely see one of the crew's like plates left out on a table, and there's a Cuban sandwich on there still, which I'm pretty sure was Jordan's. And during that day, we had a fiasco with fake blood, where in the kitchen, where we find the dead body, who's played by Stephanie, she's covered in fake blood, and it was such a bitch to get the fake blood jar open, or bottle open, that Jonathan, frustrated again with things that are kind of out of his control, tries to smash the cap off of the blood bottle against like my kitchen sink. So he's banging this thing on there, and of course, you know, the top half like breaks off, fake blood spills, and it goes everywhere. It's on the sink, it's on the walls, it's on the cabinets, it's on me, it's on him, it's everywhere. And I think, okay, this is now my mess, and I have to clean this up because this is my kitchen. I'm in charge of the set now, so this is my job now. I have to go clean this, and you know, clean it. I did, but I still have some photos. God, it was nasty. God, it was nasty. It was nasty to be on my kitchen floor too. I hope I cleaned that day. I probably didn't.
So when we filmed at your house, we had to make it seem like it was the Keys house, like the same place. It was somewhat, the tone felt somewhat similar as far as the colors, I think. But I really liked that scene a lot. I mean, we had to implement practical lighting, and I loved the lighting. I loved the camera movement. I loved Emmanuel's performance, especially.
It was me and you. It was in the two chairs. That conversation about my dad. Yeah, I like that one. It was more so, I was kind of thinking of the Joker in a sense, like more so psychotic. Like that's how I saw my character, because it was many components to him. Like I saw him more like mentally like effed up. Like he's just like kind of wacko, not like crazy wacko, but it's like sinister wacko. It's like he it's the thrill of it. Like he knows the consequences, but it's just the thrill of it. Like he don't care. So it's like, I'm here, like, what's up? You know, like he doesn't care people dying, but it's like, you know, people gotta die. And then his father and just the upbringing, like, of his dad not showing him, you know, that love and whatnot, and how that transcended to how he treats everyone else. It's like, yo, I don't really care that you're in my crew, but you're in my crew, but I need my shit. You know, I need my shit, and you can go like this. That's how I saw the character, though.
Filming at my house was not the most fun. We had to film a scene on my front porch that was supposed to take place at night, but we filmed it in the day, and anyone will tell you that, you know, trying to turn a day scene into a night scene, it's not very fun. It doesn't look great all the time. This one looks okay. You know, it could have been worse, I think. So I'm very happy to see that it worked out decently well, you know, on Jonathan's editing. So thank you there again. The dream sequence. I don't know how many there are. There's a hallucination with John twice or something in this movie. And my favorite is probably the one where John appears to Jonathan at the beach, where I guess there were still kids out. We couldn't secure the beach for filming purposes alone.
Honestly, I don't remember that one lasting more than like an hour for the whole thing.
Gotcha.
And,
so efficiency.
I remember I had to, I remember I had to walk around Jonathan and like the camera was moving as I was moving. And so we kept having to nail like the timing of that, and like I kept moving too fast and it would look weird, stuff like that. But yeah, there could have been a lot more that went wrong that day, as is true for all of our shoots, honestly, even for all the things that did go wrong, you know.
And I remember in the teaser for The Last Dubmaster, we teased that John would be in it after he died in the last one. Was it the last one? Yeah, it was the last one. And I remember thinking, oh wow, that stinger, so good, so good. And I think it lived up to its potential in this, because it gives Jonathan the inspiration to go out and, you know, find me, save me, that kind of thing. So I really enjoyed that scene, especially Jonathan's big manly yell. I'm sure he definitely like turned some heads there. I mean, I remember when I watched it, I was like, oh God, he's screaming out in public. God, why is he doing that? When Jonathan and Robin, who plays Ben Kurzer in this film, surprise, surprise, in a dream sequence.
So Ben Kurzer is actually the antagonist of the previous film, played by the talented Robin Aiken, who just kind of gave the character kind of like an asshole vibe that is pretty unbeatable. I'm glad we picked him for the role, but he makes a brief return in this one in a dream. And I like the scene overall. I think that the messages of it were pretty interesting and kind of gave a glimpse back into the original film if you weren't too familiar with what was going on. I think it kind of helped new audiences as well. But it was also a really nice Easter egg for people who had watched our previous projects. Nonetheless, there was a specific shot where we had to get him, where he was supposed to light a cigar, but it was so windy outside that he couldn't light it. So we spent like 5 minutes just for him trying to light this cigar. He's trying to smoke it, but you know, it's just not catching on. So at one point he just blows air, and we started laughing. It's like, shit, maybe I can add it in post. I don't think we did.
In the dream sequence where they're standing next to the bay and we have this beautiful shot of all the birds flying in front of them, I think that's like a really standout shot. Like I was thoroughly impressed by it, and you know, that's something that I think, you know, really separates us from a lot of other indie movies. It was that one shot in particular, I guess. I freaking love the shot of Robin grabbing Jonathan by the throat and lifting him up in the air. We used some like camera trickery to get that. But God, that image like really make me laugh. Just Robin just lifting this 7-foot giant into the air. God, it kills me.
Getting to the Keys, were there any fun? Did you drive with anyone? Or did you drive yourself?
I think I drove myself. I'm not sure. Who did I drive with? You remember?
That was such a weird way to say that. Who did I drive with? Do you remember?
Oh, I drove with Jonathan on the way to the Keys. I remember. We were talking about the scenes and we were kind of preparing ourselves for the days to come, to make sure that we had all our ducks in order. You know, as I said before, we want to make sure that everything was planned, and we were trying to make sure that everything was as planned as we can be. So we took the opportunity on the drive to really just have discussions about the screenplay, about movies in general, and the direction we wanted to take these scenes and the tone and the vibe. So it was a great opportunity for Jonathan and I to talk about these things and to make sure we were on the same page for the arguably the biggest part of the production. And the production actually went off really well. We got really great stuff, really great improv, you know, fuck them kids. Jordan's fantastic. He always has that like iconic line in every one of the Stuntmaster movies.
Quick question. I noticed on the board right there that he's a divorcee with 2 kids. What if he decides to bring them?
Fuck them kids. I have to ask, you know, big question that I got in Q&A. So, were you excited when you found out you got to say "fuck them kids"?
And normally, like, when I look at the video, when I seen the internet meme saying "fuck those kids," I work with kids, so I'm like, so now that after the shooting of the video of me saying that, my boss, you know, Jackie Morris from like Direct, she showed me the trailer on Facebook. She was like, "Jordan, I didn't know you were an actor." Yeah.
No.
She was like, I'm walking into work. She's like, "Fuck them kids." I'm like, what?
Jackie?
Yeah.
She caught me off guard. I didn't know she'd seen it. I didn't know it was that like Miami
Just, you know,
Shores was such a
I
community.
didn't know
like that.
Jackie would be like so cool to throw that around either.
No,
Like, okay, I was like,
cool.
damn.
So there are maybe like 2 or 3 days throughout my 7 years of experience shooting video projects and stuff like that I honestly wanted to blow my brains out. And this honestly has to be number 1 or number 2. There was tons of stuff going on during that shoot. We were doing fight scenes, we were doing night scenes, we were doing more character-driven scenes, we were shooting on boats, we were shooting at night, we were shooting a torture scene. There were so many different things that we had to do, and we only had like a day and a half to do it.
All right, the entire sequence in Key Largo. God, it starts with me shackled, which was essentially me just, you know, holding my arms above my head and like doing this. I don't know if you can tell exactly like how I don't know how convincing it was, but I hope it was. I remember specifically shaving my armpit hair so that it wouldn't be that disgusting looking on camera. I don't remember if I put deodorant on. Sorry, Emmanuel, if you have to smell my pits, but you know, that's the acting life. What are you gonna do? There's the shot of Emmanuel like punching me in the gut, which I don't remember if he hit me hard or not. I think he like I tensed up the gut muscle, and you know he put some muscle in it. So I remember the crew making fun of that scene because the way it's kind of angled, it looks like he's kind of grabbing my balls, kind of squeezing it there.
This is nothing personal.
It's like a definite like, he's like, this is nothing personal, and I'm like, oh god, you know, out of context, this looks like a porn shoot.
So, cast is weird. You guys are weird. Thinking of that stuff. Real weirdos. I was actually like really happy with the way I looked in that scene, like my makeup, because I had Paige do my makeup and she did like my black eye and my bloody nose and bloody lip and all that, and I definitely took advantage and took selfies of it. So I hope I am like beaten, bloodied, and bruised in other productions. I think that's gonna be a lot of fun. But I was really happy with the way I looked in this one. That's for sure. And I got to bust out my yellow shorts, which I don't wear very often. I think I outgrew them now. So I gotta go on a diet or something. Man.
But I remember our last day of filming, it was like getting late into the night, and I have complications, like health complications, and with my lungs, and I remember it was getting late, and I started struggling. Like I was struggling to breathe. I was having issues with that, and I just had to I couldn't be active standing up and filming and moving around and having my brain think. I just had to just sit and just try to breathe. That's all I could have the mental energy to do, is just try my best to breathe. So I told Jonathan, like, hey dude, I know I have a few more hours to film, and then we'd already been filming for like 12 hours up to that point. And I was like, dude, Jonathan, I wouldn't do this if I didn't have to, but I'm like, I have to just go inside and sit for a minute. I'm like really struggling to breathe here. And he's like, yeah, dude, don't worry, it's totally fine. And he carried out the rest of the production.
I had no clue.
Yeah, I don't know. No one knows this.
Yeah.
Only Paige knows this. Like that, I was like really like struggling.
Did you kind of confide in her?
A little bit. I she like made me tea and was like really helpful. I was like, go lay down, like take it easy, don't worry about it, whatever, need tea, whatever. So I was really that was really nice. I don't even like she knew that I was struggling, but I didn't even tell her to that extent of like I don't know if I have to go to the hospital or not.
This is also the scene and the sequence where Jonathan takes out all those guards, including Gabe and Aaron and Jordan, and they all go out in ridiculous fashion. Gabe just kind of flops to the ground. Aaron jumps into freezing waters, fully clothed, probably with sharks or something. He's a trooper for doing that. And then Jordan gets shot kind of anticlimactically by Jonathan, just coming into the scene as Jordan is talking about his killer fuck them kids line. So that's a very Jonathan scene, the way he busts in. So happy to see it. And Jonathan's line delivery of, "Hey, Ethan's girlfriend, please call the police," I think was really funny.
Hey, Ethan's girlfriend, please call the cops.
Jonathan dies. That's the big spoiler of the movie. I'm the last Stub Master. Can you believe it? Me? I bet you would have never guessed. Yeah, Jonathan bites the dust in this movie, and it's okay. It's, it's pretty dramatic. We've got the music going on. It's swelling. He's giving like a gurgling, dying performance, which is pretty stereotypical of like dramatic last moments. But I think it's fine to go with that. I do my best to give a sad performance, and that's really hard because I'm like, "You're my brother, Jonathan."
Stub Masters till I die.
So, I don't know. It's not great, my performance probably. I'm sure there were some tears in their premiere audience. In fact, I know there were, based on the questions we got later. Probably the funniest moment of that night was when we were filming in the house, and Sebastian wanted to haze up the scene, with haze in a can. So he goes up and he, hazes it out. And as he's spraying the haze up into the air, we hear this, this beeping go off, this alarm go off. And we're all looking around like, what's going on? What's happening? And I look at Sebastian spraying the haze in the air, and I follow his arm up to where he's spraying, and he's spraying haze, smoke, into the smoke detector. And it's incredible how, of all the spots in the house, he places it exactly into like the intake of the smoke detector. And, that was... it was ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. The buffoonery. We're just so dumb. We're just dumb. I know I broke stuff when Emmanuel and I were fighting, and I tackle him. I smash him against the wall and break like a thermometer.
You okay? What's going on?
What's up? So this broke all the air conditioning thing. Gotcha.
Cut.
Luckily we fixed it. But again, we're just bulls in a china shop at this point. The fight scene, let's talk about that. The fight scene between myself and Emmanuel was chaotic. It was somewhat choreographed with the help of Gabe, but it was pretty on the spot, on the fly instructions from Jonathan. We ran through it multiple times, we did it in chunks, we did it every way you could possibly imagine, and you can see the end result. I think it turned out pretty well. I did take a punch for the production, which you can see and hear because it's a big meaty smack. And as soon as everyone saw me get hit, everyone looked around at each other like, holy shit, Ethan just got punched in the face. And they were clamoring to look at the footage afterwards of the punch, and it turned out well.
And I knew for me, I wanted to give it my all. That's what anything I do. I wanted to give it my all. That's just how I am. So the fight scene was very unique because I know at first you guys just wanted me to get my ass kicked completely. And I understand that vision, but it's like, I know for me as an actor, it's the give and take, like give, take, and take back. It's like, make him look good, make me look good. Make it look like, okay, I am giving you a fight. Let me give you a fight. So then at the end, it makes you look good. It's like, yo, he really triumphed over the villain, but the villain gave him a good fight. Like that's how I see it. So on the day of the choreography, it's like, okay, cool. It's like all these moves. I'm like, okay, you're gonna go here. It kind of felt like wrestling. I don't know, for some reason I took it as like wrestling, like real life wrestling, but it hurt. It did hurt. But I was like, okay, cool. I really did not mean to punch him.
Jonathan was the most excited about it. So excited that he would always bring up that shot in any trailer, any shot that he was showing, that he always made sure that shot was in there. So I found that really funny because he was just so excited about it. But everyone was really excited about that shot. It was a really funny shot. And it ended up working out really, really well that Ethan got punched in the face.
You know, you can just see me getting punched and it looks really good. But to be fair, Emmanuel, I punched you first. I'm sorry. I kind of got you on the chin there. Sorry again. We were filming next to a flight of stairs. I was constantly like almost falling down the stairs. Francine was ready at the bottom to catch me in case anything happened. The Keys shoot was definitely the hardest part of the entire production. It was chaotic. It was wild. I didn't know if I was going to survive that night, but we ended up surviving and we made a great movie because of the stuff that we did that night. The last scene of the movie is myself getting the letter or video from Jonathan, and he's talking to me posthumously from the grave, and we talk about the Spider-Man DVD, which is real. I'm not sure why he like included that like real detail in it. I guess it's a cute, funny friend thing, but I don't know. I think that reference was a little too far off for the audience maybe. No one ever said anything, so I guess it worked, but it was just my thoughts. You know, so I'm crying, I'm doing the same. But, you know, that's the final scene of the movie. It ends there. I think it ends, you know, I think it ends pretty well. It's, you know, it's a lot of fun, this movie. You know, it's got ups, it's got downs, it's got peaks, it's got valleys. But overall, I think I had a really fun time with it. It was the big bang of Stubmasters, you know, to end it all. And I know I had a lot of fun. I know everyone involved had a lot of fun. This wasn't just a gig for us. It was to close out a chapter of our lives, to make peace with ending something that we had been attached to for so long. And, you know, it was something that we needed to close before we started something new. And here we are at that something new with Battle Orange. So I don't think Battle Orange would have been possible without Stubmasters. No way. I know that for a fact.
I was so excited once we had wrapped shooting that even though Sebastian was going to edit the project, I kind of wanted to make my own cut. So I had all the footage done, and I basically edited together a rough cut of the film. And I remember we watched it right before I had to go back to Maryland, and it was rough, to put it lightly. I could tell that a lot of post-production work needed to be done. There were a lot of audio issues, and that there was no color grading, there was no nothing, and I was like, ooh, man, if I'm going to make this film work, I'm going to have to do a lot of post-production. And, you know, thankfully, I was like, we were going to have Sebastian, so that shouldn't be a problem.
So I remember we wrapped, the initial intention was that I would be editing it, or at least editing a big part of it alongside Jonathan. That way I can sort of guide him in the right direction of pacing and all that sort of thing, because I had that experience. But as we were about to do that, I ended up being hired to produce a series up in New York City, and I was traveling a lot and I was really busy with that, so I had to not do that. I had to step out of the post-production part of it. And so going into that, I knew that there was a lot of creative work that and a creative rewriting that needed to be done in post-production, and that's what I was intending to do as we went into it. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to have a hand in that as I had other responsibilities in New York City.
It was about 2 weeks after I got back to Maryland. He called me up and was like, hey, I'm going to go ahead and, you know, get started on this this editing thing in about a week or two. And then I remember contacting him about it, and he didn't really get back to me, like, at all. I'm like, oh, shit. And then he was like, I'm sorry, I got this job in New York, and I got to go ahead and handle that. But it was just, like, a big, like, thorn in my side. It was like, shit, now I'm going to have to figure out, you know, Premiere and basically edit this thing together. So I think I overall, you know, given that this was my first feature production and my first time using Premiere, I think it turned out pretty well.
I didn't really have any doubts at that point. I just kind of was like, it's going to be a fun film to watch, and a good memory, and a good goof, a good laugh, a good lesson, and a good really just overall, I just knew whether it turns out really amazing or really bad or a fine movie, whatever, I knew that it was going to be a fun memory, and it was going to be a learning lesson, and it was going to be something that myself and Jonathan and Ethan and everyone involved in the project is going to look back on and you know, see how far we've come from that.
Wrapped up the project, you're probably seeing promo trailers come out over the following months. When you finally saw, the film, what were your thoughts?
No, I actually when I saw the first initial trailer, I was so I was excited. I couldn't wait to see it, and I was praying, I'm like, please don't let it be a flop. Please don't flop. Please, my name's attached to it. And then when I saw it, and I saw how beautiful it looked with the smoke, and I saw the credits, and I saw your performance and how you were lit properly, we went, the look up onto frame, and everything was just as a Fire Creek movie would be, because we're known for the cinematography. We were known for the suspense. That's what we're known for, because we're from the horror. Now we can say we do action films because of The Last Master. I was truly impressed.
And the crazy part is, you guys are a small production. You guys are just starting out, so that's a lot, and that took hours. It took a couple hours just to get certain things done. But imagine if it was like a giant production. That's why I see like movies. Like, you guys changed my perspective on movies now. Now that when I go to the movies, I'm like, oh, this is something that Jonathan, the lighting, stuff that you guys do, but on a bigger scale. So I look at movies in a whole different way, thanks to you guys, to be honest.
I'll never forget any of this stuff. Like, it was a crazy time. It was a crazy time, crazy, like, new experiences for all of us. Like, just such uncharted territory and, like, the ambition of what we were doing. But I'm still super proud of what we got out of it. I'm still really proud of that movie, for sure.
Cool. Do you think the work that you did on The Last Dubmaster helped you in the future, where you are now? Any lessons you've learned?
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, just from, well, there's the technical lessons of doing the music, and of just working on a project that big, on that much music, on how to like stay organized, and like what I did wrong with like my time management. Sorry, Jonathan, and stuff like that. But I guess also within like just working with people and like scheduling kind of taught me a lot, almost peripherally, because I wasn't really managing the people, but like it was a big production most of the time. Like, we had a lot of people down at the keys and like moving a lot of people around, and a lot to coordinate, you know what I mean? So I think it taught me a lot about music, and in general working on like big projects like that, and how to approach it right and make things run efficiently but still maintain your vision.
The film was good. It's not like, oh, we're like Warner, like you guys are Warner Brothers and whatnot. It's like, I respect, of course, definitely. I respect the fact that you guys were able to make this feature film with what you guys have, with the equipment, the knowledge that you guys have for the film industry, and doing projects together. That's one thing I respect. When I check you guys out, I like the fact that you guys was doing this for a minute. It's not like this is your first rodeo. You guys was doing this for a minute. You put the years in. I respect that. So it's like, I knew for a fact that this film was going to be good. Like, it was going to be good. The storyline was good. Everything was good. It's not like, okay, you can't compare it to like, a Marvel film and whatnot. Everybody got their own perspective of watching a movie, what's quality, whatnot. I respect the fact that you guys are indie, doing your own thing. This is your shit. No one can tell you otherwise.
Honestly, I was actually scared to watch it, but no, I ended up enjoying it. It was really fun to see our labor play out on screen. It was really, really fun, and just seeing, oh, it's done, and that was nice, because now it was something that you can kind of, put behind you, move on to the next thing, and that's always a sigh of relief. You always criticize your work once it's done the most, but it was just really nice to see the fruits of our labor in a complete film, and it was really inspiring to see what Jonathan made from just a concept and idea, and gathering the people to make a film happen and just go for it like that, and then make a complete project was really inspiring. and it's something that inspired me, and it inspired me to start writing projects that I don't know when I would be able to make them, but I want to start making them. And at this point, I'm writing some projects that I have some projects that I've been developing for, you know, over a year because of that. You know, I've bettered my craft of directing because of the lessons I've learned, the way how I saw him direct and how I saw myself shoot. You know, I learned my craft better. I bettered myself as not just a cinematographer, but as a director. Not because of just the lessons that I learned and the mistakes that I made filming them, but also seeing the lessons I learned from seeing Jonathan direct. You know, I was able to take what he did effectively and what I believed that he did ineffectively, right? I learned how important it is to be an organization freak. That's why I work with him, because he's such an organization person and so organized. That's why I work with him to this day. He's like, he was my assistant director on my most recent directorial work, because I needed someone that was very organized. And I'm not so organized with that kind of thing. I am, but I needed someone that was way more organized and could be barking at me and kind of telling me like, hey, we need to stay on schedule, or this is like, you know. It all started from Ethan calling me up and be like, hey, Jonathan's making this project and we need a cinematographer, are you interested? And that stemmed into having a creative collaborator for different projects, and you know, I'm hoping that will lead to many more projects to come. More importantly, the thing I took away from the project is having a roster of people that I can count on, that I can rely on, that I can collaborate with, and that I can offer help to, and that I can reach out to for help on my project. The real submasters that we found was the friends we made along the way. No, it really was a pleasure meeting so many great people on set, and that I've worked with time and time again, and that I'm looking forward to working with again in the future. And none of that would have happened if it wasn't for The Last Stepmaster.
But I'm glad that we ended up shooting it. I'm glad that, you know, everyone put so much hard work in the project. I'm thankful for everyone's talent. You know, for example, as much as I give Sebastian crap sometimes for the way he sets up shots, or how long it takes him to set up things, and a little bit of organizational stuff there, he's a great DP. You know, he's honestly the best DP that I know. The images that he captures are incredible, and that's why I like working with him all the time, because I know that, you know, if I attach him to a project, it's going to look beautiful. And Ethan, you know, was a huge production assistant on it, and, you know, acted and did a great job acting in the film, and just helped out so much. And, you know, I work with him on Bad Orange now, and I couldn't ask for a better partner in terms of just working on stuff. The guy's amazing, does everything that, you know, I could ever ask him to do. He's creative, and honestly, just, I don't think that these projects would have turned out as well as they have, or have that level of charm, if Ethan wasn't attached to the projects. I'm never going to forget how this project went down and the lessons that I learned from it, because I came out a different person. I came out a more competent editor. I came out a more competent director, and so many lessons I learned on this. I can't count, but this was probably the most important project in setting up everything that I work on today. And for that, I'm never going to forget working on The Last Stepmaster.
All right, we're rolling.
Literally.
Nice.
Go.
I'm sorry. You weren't just a friend, Jonathan. You were my brother. What?
I'm sorry, you just give me a belly rub here. That was just a little strange.
All right.
You know what I mean?
Fuck them, kid.
Do you get that clear?
Stepmasters was a really small YouTube channel. Like, really small. Still like it. Close your eyes.
So I wake up the next day after my ridiculous night with a porn star you probably heard of, named my mother. And after our
Diesel, you got this.
Yeah.